Right. Hello, everyone. Give it 1 sec till people realise I'm here. Thank you very much to everyone for coming to the SocialCode tonight. It's great to see it so packed. I did say tonight was going to be interesting to see if we'd have enough space. If anyone wants to let the lot know that are trying to peek through from outside, we have got some seats down here, then feel free. But no, thank you very much to everyone for coming. This is definitely the best attended SocialCode event that we've had in person since we've gone in person again. So it's really fantastic to kind of see everyone here, really. Just quickly, for those of you who haven't been before, my name's Ross. I'm a lead consultant at Oscar, who've got the space downstairs. Started the SocialCode about 18 months ago now. We've got a focus basically on these three key pillars. So we built this to try and be a place really to give an opportunity for everyone to share their knowledge, but also to create a community feel and encourage feedback amongst everyone. So it's not going to be, I'm an expert telling you this is how everything's done. It's an opportunity for everyone to interact, to have a communal space and to learn and to keep growing from there. So if anyone wants to catch me to ask about any of the next events or anything like that, also I'm always looking for speakers. So please do catch me on any of the socials. We've got Toby, Vitor and Stephen here, who are our three speakers who've kindly come and prepared everything for us. I know that for a couple of them, it's their first time as well. I do want to quickly just point out, don't worry, I know there's more beer being put into the fridge. That's the main concern everyone's had for the evening. But I do also want to point out that we have got freebies on everyone's seats. I think there might be one or two more milling around if anyone didn't get one, but huge thanks to JD, who sponsored the event this evening. It's nice of them to go above and beyond and give a little bit extra out. Obviously, they have, good news, also paid for all the beer and pizza as well. Just wanted to give Dave a chance to quickly come up and introduce himself, just as a way to introduce himself to the community.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Ross. So my name is Dave McHugh. I'm the multi-channel software engineering director for JD. So what does that mean? If you experience anything digital in a retail store, online, in UK, Europe, basically anywhere except for North America, that flows through me and my teams. So please, if it's broken, do tell me. I need to know this stuff. So JD, historically, so we celebrated our 40th anniversary as an organization. I think it was officially last year, but we celebrated it this year. We are, or have been, historically quite secretive about our engineering capabilities, our tech stack, the people, the culture. Well, I'm here today to say that that's changing. So I joined JD 5 and a bit months ago, and I've been both equally surprised and shocked in some directions. It's a fantastic place to be. Unfortunately, it's in Bury, or fortunately, depending how you look at it. So we're working on that. We're working on that. Yeah, honestly, it's not enough. It's only the road. It's just a tram away. So yeah, so I'm here to try and sort of engage with the engineering community in the Northwest, but in Manchester specifically. It means a lot to us that we start to build some proper robust links with you guys, with these guys, and other social type events across this entire landscape. So watch out, we're about. Thank you very much. Enjoy.
Well, just quickly before we get on, I know there's always one thing that I forget, and unfortunately this time it's the house rules, which is a little bit boring, but I do have to cover them off. If you smoke or vape, please don't do it on the roof terrace. If you go downstairs, we've left someone there all night to make sure you can get back in, because I know that we left someone locked outside by accident once. But please do it downstairs. We aren't allowed to smoke or vape up here. And the only other thing is, there's not a planned fire alarm. The fire exits the stairs straight out the door. If it goes off, please use it. And in the least glamorous transition in the world, I'm going to introduce our first speaker for the evening. This is Toby Wilman with Confessions of an Amateur Public Speaker.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Notes up. So, Confessions of an Amateur Public Speaker. Why this came around really is, I'm going to talk about a little bit later on during the talk, but it's something that I've been on a journey going from coming to events like this, to putting on my own meetups, to eventually talking at internal and external events. And I wanted to talk a little bit about about that journey, really. So here's me hiding from over there to about to come out. So I've seen this done before. I'm going to try it. Never done it before myself, but can I get a little show of hands? Who spoke at an external event similar to this before? Fine, nice few of you, yeah, good. Who hasn't had the chance to do it, but would like to do so in the future? Cool. Hopefully there'll be some resonation coming out of this, and hopefully some lessons what not to do and what to do in the future. And is there anyone in here who classes themselves as a professional speaker? Good. No judges in the room. Right, I like that. Perfect. Right, so a little bit about my journey. So my journey really started off, this is my journey into talking and events, but rather than my journey from being born. So I'm not going to be here for hours and hours. So I went into recruitment, went for 6 different jobs. 2 of them were in tech. Didn't get the 2 in tech. Ended up going into energy from waste plants, the quantity surveyors and commercial managers. Really weird industry to be in. Not like had any experience in it at all, but wanted to get into tech. So kept on messaging the person who rejected me every 2-3 months. You got a job for me yet? You got a job for me yet? You got a job for me yet? Eventually she buckled. She gave me a job. And I went into this job and I thought I wanted to learn all about technology. Didn't know anything about it at all. So I took on the DevOps and cloud market. It sounded cool. I didn't know anything about it at all. It sounded pretty cool at the time. And from there, I started to learn a little bit more about the industry. Tried to learn a little bit more about the industry. It felt like the Matrix. Like it felt like I was looking at all these words, acronyms, people talking about pipelines and automation. I was like, what is this? So anyway, I got a little bit more into it. Started to pick up some books. Started to do a little bit of learning from LinkedIn and reading on the internet. It wasn't going in at all. So I thought, right, what else can I look at? I got introduced to Meetup. Something we've come through today, maybe Meetup, Eventbrite. There is other event sites out there if you want to use them. But this is where I started to go a little bit more into the learning and networking. But I was petrified. Like, honestly, going to my first Meetup, I was petrified. I was stood outside the door. In fact, I think I toyed with the idea about 4 or 5 times and sort of just went, right, I'm going home. I went to my first Meetup. It was AWS User Group North. Walked in for a breakfast Meetup. I remember getting first bacon butter, coffee. I thought, this is mint. Right, sat down in the corner, and I sat in the furthest corner with my head down the whole time. Like, when the talks came on, I put my head up, like I watched them, like learned a little bit. It was actually introduction to DevOps, which was pretty good. But I had massive imposter syndrome. I thought, I'm not supposed to be here. I don't want to talk to anyone. Get me out this door as fast as I could. So I left that door as fast as I could. Anyway, I went to more and more meetups. I went to 2 meetups, 3 meetups, 4 meetups, and I was going to like 2 a week at this point. Picked up the courage to start speaking to people, doing a bit of networking, finding out a little bit why everyone else is coming there. Not everyone else is sort of, we're not all there like master sort of geniuses. Few people are in the same boat as me. Anyway, I got to the point where my company said to me, you're doing a talk. Like, no, sure, you're doing a talk. I'm going to meet up. I was like, no way, I don't want to do this talk. Not a chance. Took me down to London. Everyone came from all over the country. CEO of the company I worked for at the time, which is an international company, sat there front row. I'm in the front row of the cinema, like literally beaming lights on me. It was hot. CEO and all these cronies there looking at me. I was like, oh God. So anyway, I had to deliver this talk on the growth of Manchester. And my 10-minute slot was about meetups and getting out to do networking and meeting new people. And honestly, it was probably one of the most scared I've ever been. I was literally shaking like a leaf. So these are the feelings that you think I might went through. This is excited. I wasn't that. Nervous. I was definitely that. A lot of that. No confidence. There was no confidence. I wasn't Wolf of Wall Street in it. This was me, trying to run out the bloody door. See you later. I wish. Anyway, I had to deliver this talk, and this is how I felt when I sat back down in my seat. I literally sat back down like I'd been beamed down from some other planet, and I turned around to my manager next to me. I was like, I don't think I said a single word. I can't remember saying a single word. And she's going, you did great. I was like, yeah, of course. Like, that's what you're going to say to me. Everyone else like, you did great. You did really good. The CEO came up to me when we were having a beer after. Yeah, your talk was great. I was like, all right, it must have been all right. So anyway, I had something plucking in the back of my mind for a while. Off the back of that confidence lift, I thought, right, I'm going to start my own meetup. So I started the DevOps Battle Royale in Manchester, and we had great fun with it. It was really good. It was something that I put a lot of heart and soul into. It's the event what introduced me to the company I work for now. I used to work for Spinks. I work for Infinity Works now. And it was just a great experience setting it all up. You know, I Forrest Gumped my way through the whole thing. I didn't have a clue of setting up a meetup at all. We did some good things, we did some bad things, but it went really well. We ended up doing 8 in the end. It's coming back, by the way, so watch out for that space. It is coming back, but it sort of fell a bit flat on its face through the pandemic. But through doing that, these are a few pictures of me, a little nervous me pulling my pants up in the corner, hand in the pocket at the front there. This is when it got a little bit busier, and it started to get a bit busier, and it was great. It was a really good success. And I don't know why I picked this picture. I was looking for differences, and I don't know why I picked this anyway. Anyway, we'll work with it. So the difference between a host and a speaker. So I started getting into hosting. I thought it was great fun. I thought it was really good. You could move things along pretty quickly if you were stumbling. You could introduce new people. You could have a bit of a laugh. Obviously, the pressure wasn't on you to put slides together and do all that sort of stuff. So I started to do quite a bit of hosting, but in the back of my mind, I'm watching all these people doing great talks. I thought, right, I've got to do a talk at some point. So the opportunity came up to do a talk. Once again, it was for Spinks at the time, and it was about the success of the DevOps Battle Royale. So it was great. I've been there 3 years. We'd done great. You know, we built a big community. We had like 1,000 people. We had good attendance. We were doing some really good stuff. We were changing the sort of way that we did things and evolving the event all the time. You know, commercially, the business were happy. We were making some good connections with customers. We were, you know, placing some fantastic people, fantastic engineers in roles. So it felt easy. It felt natural. So I thought, blooming heck, I'm a good speaker. You know, I've got it nailed down here. And then I got the call up from Women in Tech North to come and do a talk. And they went, do you want to come and do a talk? And I was like, yeah, I think so. So anyway, I went and did the talk. And the talk was actually at that point from the slide before, I'd actually had to do that talk from the success of Battle Royale for Spinks, as I'd already accepted a job for Infinity Works. It was pretty awkward. So I was actually on my way out the door. So that was a story in itself. But I did this talk at Women in Tech North, and you know, fantastic group of people. You know, I've known Becky and the rest of the team there for a while. She messaged me and said, do you want to do this talk? I was like, yeah, all right then. Okay, so 2 days before the talk, by the way, I was on following your head and your heart. I'd been through the decision at the time to follow my head or my heart and take this choice of whether I stay with Spinks. And, you know, I was making good money. I had a team around me. We were doing some really good stuff. Or my heart was in Infinity Works. So I thought, right, I'm going to make the choice to go for Infinity Works. And this is when I started to do this talk. And I did the talk on that, following your head and your heart. 2 days before it, I felt really ill. I was like, bad cough, not like a fake illness, because this talk was coming up, but it felt really ill. So I wasn't actually in work that day. So I said to my partner, I said, look, Katie, you've got to go and drop me off at this talk. I can't let them down. I've held talks. I've done these meetings before. I can't let them down last minute. So she drove me in. It was quite funny. So I'm getting drove into the talk, like Nicki Minaj getting drove in, did the talk and got wheeled back off again straight away because I was poorly. It's probably the opposite of Nicki Minaj, to be fair, absolutely in a bad way. But I delivered the talk and it felt great. It felt really good. I was shaking like a leaf. I was nervous as hell. Got the first word out, and the first word, it just sort of rolled from there, a bit like today, really. And I think this is a bit of the theme that we're going to talk about. It's nerve-wracking. It is. It's just about getting yourself up and getting yourself out there and doing it. But this is what I did there, and it went really well. I got some great feedback from it. Then I started another meetup. So I became multiple meetups at this point, Commodore of meetups. So I had 2 meetups going on. Let's Get Disruptive. This was great. Really good Q&A. I was co-hosting it. So I wasn't doing too much on the hosting side, but what this gave me access to was doing my first podcast. And I think this, for me, for anyone who's thinking about speaking, who doesn't want to stand up in front of people straight away, podcasts are great. Like, they are still a bit nerve-wracking. You do have to put yourself out there. You've got to hold a conversation, but after the conversation's flowing, it's just like having a chat. And it gave me a lot of confidence. I was a bit nervous. It must have been, God knows how hot it was. I was dripping with sweat when I went in. It was like really, really hot. And anyway, we delivered this podcast and it was really good. And it was, it ended up being the company that we did it for, ended up being one of their most listened to podcasts. We did it on my sort of experiences with imposter syndrome. And I battled with anxiety a lot when I first came into recruitment, coming into this high pressured sort of sales world, and put myself under way too much pressure to be the best when I'm not. I'm far from it. And I battled for anxiety a lot, and the podcast got received really well. So then the pandemic hit, The pandemic sort of wiped everything out. It was tough. Like the meetup scene went, like we probably, we all went to virtual meetups. There's about 4 or 5 meetups going on a day at some point, all tuned into a virtual meetup, a virtual event. And it was tough. It was hard. I was doing roundtables. I was trying to get involved as much as I could. Tried to do a few vlog diaries, taking me 3 hours to do a 6-minute video, doing blooper after blooper after blooper in my room. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So I packed it in. I knocked it on the head for about 18 months. And then obviously the return of meetups came back. This is great. We're all here now. Look at this room today. Meetups are back. And what I did then was able to use or utilize the new space at work to be able to get events in and do loads of really cool stuff in our space and come along to other meetups and do all the stuff that we're doing today. Really, it felt good. I also got to pick up the microphone again for a short time, and I thought, right, I got a little bit of a taste for it. I thought I'm going to put myself back out there, and putting myself back out there was tough. It was hard, so I did something a little bit easier at first, and just did a little end of month at work, virtual one, about 80 people there. And I think this is another thing: if you got the opportunity to do something internally at work, and you wanted to do a little bit of speaking, makes it really easy when you know the people. Fair enough, they might give you a little bit more banter afterwards or whatever it may be, but that's just a bit of part of it, I suppose. But the end of the month went really well. Did a 15-minute presentation all about networking, all about getting back out to these events, all about going meeting new people, seeing old faces, and this is where I got a little bit of confidence back in me to put myself back out there for talks. And this is where I reached out on LinkedIn. I put it out there the day after the talk. I'm going to put it out there and just see what happens. So I said I want to do a couple of talks in the next few months. Ross reached out, and someone from work reached out. And someone from work was like, right, you're going to do our mini conference. Our mini conference, about 160, maybe 180 people tune into it. So I thought, right, I'll go and do that. And this is where this talk came from, really, because this talk was awful. It was really, really bad. And it was the talk I was supposed to do tonight. So it's going to be called Just Keep Swimming, the power of persistence and resilience. I'd come back from France and I'd just not done the talk at all. The talk was in 24 hours time. First slide to actually doing the talk, it was like 24 hours gap. So I just rushed these slides together. I went along, there's like 50, 60 people in the room. People tuned in from 5 different cities doing watch parties. And I'd not really read the room. So this is me anyway in the toilet, giving it all the palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy, getting ready to go. And I came out, and this was the audience. As soon as I started talking, I delivered the wrong talk. Didn't read the room, rushed the whole presentation, talked to the wrong crowd, stumbled and fumbled my way through the whole thing. Like, I remember I dropped a joke in there, which might have been appropriate. It felt appropriate at the time, but it was about sperm. And everyone just went, and honestly, everyone just went, ooh, and started shaking their heads. I was like, oh, I've effed up here big time. Anyway, so this is what spurred me on to do this talk, because I think what I wanted to do was, I've been in the seat before looking to think I want to do talks, and I didn't know sort of how to go about it or how to approach it. And I think these are some of the things that I'd say that the reasons I did it is, for me, like, it's something that scares me. It's something that both scares me and I know isn't easy at the same time. And I think anything like that for me personally is something that I'd like to put my heart and soul into, because if I can achieve and overachieve that, then that's a great accomplishment for me. And hopefully anyone else who's thinking about speaking the same way, it is nerve-wracking. And I think we'll talk through some of the hints and tips in 2 seconds, but it is nerve-wracking. I think you just got to accept that. I think the hardest part is getting yourself up there and doing it. And when I sit down on there and I open that cider in a minute, I feel, whoa, that's it, done now. So yeah, it's good fun though. So here's some of the hints and tips. Give yourself time to get your slides finished. Rule 101, do not rush your slides. I mean, I was touch and go with these. I sent them a few days ago, but it was, I had prepared them before. Know your audience. I mean, hopefully I've known my audience today. Hopefully everyone can resonate a little bit with this. It is about something that you could do this through stakeholder meetings at work. You can do it on podcasts. You can just go to events, just get yourself through the door and go to events or speak at an event, whatever it may be. But yeah, know your audience and deliver it to the right space. Be original. We've all got personalities. You've got to let it shine through. Don't watch 50 million TEDx talks and just copy one of them and come out of it and go, that's how they did it. Like, just let yourself shine through. That's how you're going to get your own personality as a speaker. Being nervous is normal. You've got to prepare for it. you got to prepare for being nervous. You got to prepare. I was walking up here and Toby was trying to talk to me. And I was thinking, shut up. Do you know what I mean? Shut up. Like, let me get in the zone. Anyway, tell a story. So one thing I never mentioned, I was supposed to mention, that I got a mentor at part of the stages through my experience, who is Infinity Works storyteller, a guy called Tim Benjamin, and he was a fantastic speaker, and I didn't get enough time to spend with him. He taught me a few things throughout, doing presentations and trying to keep your nerves calm and all this sort of stuff. And this is one thing, that tell a story, use a thread throughout your talk. Like, you can put 50 million things on slides, and it can be sporadic, and people can lose themselves throughout the talk. And I think that's a really important one. Don't read verbatim from your notes. That's a given. Listen to feedback and adapt to it. I think that's just not just for talks, just for anything in life, really. Feedback can be one of the biggest gifts that you can get from anyone. This was supposed to be my last bullet point, but I'm going to use that one last. But get out there and give it a go. I think that's number one. I think if I never went to that first meetup, I would have never ended up doing a talk for Spinks. I would have never ended up starting the Battle Royale. I never ended up doing the things that you're doing now and the podcast. And now I'm here today doing this, and it's all just through getting out there and giving it a go. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I can say. I know it's easier for other people, some people than others, but that's all I can say. Get out there and give it a go. Don't lose your voice in Benidorm 3 days before an event like me. Now you're croaking your way through it all. But yeah, thank you very much. That's me. Yeah, okay, cool. Is there any questions for all? This coming here and doing this. Yeah, it was really bad. Like, honestly, I just had to get out there and do this. Honestly, it was like, yeah, I've not been in that position before. I felt like I just got swallowed up. And oh, sorry, yeah.
The stream can't hear people over here, that's all. So if Toby repeats the question afterwards, then at least the people on stream know what's going on.
How do I get over doing a bad talk? And yeah, just doing this, just try and get out there and do another one as fast as possible, because otherwise I would have let it dwell on me. I reckon if I would have not done it and done this and booked myself in to do this, I might not have done another one, just because I thought it's just let it sit on my head for ages that, you messed up there big time. But yeah, that's my hint and tip for it. Yeah. Yeah. About preparing to be nervous. How do you prepare to be nervous? I don't really know, honestly. Like, I'd say just be ready for it. I suppose just be ready to accept it. I don't think there's a preparation of what you can do. I think just having your head, like, I think sometimes you can go to do a talk or something like that, and you can give yourself too much confidence in your head, and you think, oh, I'm going to smash this, I'm going to do this, And I think that's for me. I think you're only, well, this is my experience. I'd only be kidding myself if I did that, because I knew in the back of my mind, I'd be like, oh my God, nervous. So just accept it and just try and get up there. I think once the first words leave your mouth and you start cracking on with it, you're all right. I think we've got one on stream as well.
Yeah, Val says, does imagining that the audience is naked work?
Well, definitely doing another talk. No, I've not tried that one. No.
Okay, that's all.
Cool.
Any other questions before?
How was Benidorm? Yeah, I'll leave that one for after. We can chat out there. Cool. Thank you.
Mic on now? Right. Hoping this is working. Everyone hear me okay? So just to introduce our next speaker of the evening, I've just realised it doesn't look great that on camera. I've just been getting progressively bigger bottles of alcohol. I promise I'm not an alcoholic, but I know what it looks like. Although if anyone sees me in the Crombie after, you didn't. So I think this is a really apt follow-on from Toby's talk about getting involved and just doing it and speaking for the first time. Vitor's attended a couple of our events and reached out to me after the last event saying that they would like to do their first talk at the SocialCode.
That was a mistake.
Yeah, it's too late now. But I think this sums up what we are as a community. I really want this to keep being a vehicle and an opportunity for everyone to get involved, no matter what level they're at, no matter what level of experience of talks that they're at. And having seen the talk, it looks really interesting. So I'd like to introduce Vitor for the talk on DDD. Next slide. Next slide.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. My name is Vitor. I'm going to be talking about domain-driven design, more specifically about the context. How many people here know about domain-driven design? Just so I can show. Okay. Okay, 2 people. Awesome. 3. Okay. If you don't know about domain-driven design, that's totally fine. I'll try to. Well, the way I made the slides is that cover the very basics. So we're going to start from the very beginning. So ubiquitous language, subdomains, and all these things. So, okay. Okay, well, that doesn't really matter. All right. So let's start with ubiquitous language. Okay, this is one of the terms used in the domain-driven design book. We software developers, most of the times, we sometimes have to communicate with, interface with clients and customers, especially when you get into a new company or you get into a new business. You don't know exactly what is the domain of the business. You don't know exactly what the company is about. And because of that, we have to talk to these domain experts, right? The domain experts are people that know about the company's domain. So for example, I work in an insurance company. The domain is insurance. So we talk about policies, claims, codes, and all those things. And me as a software developer, I don't even have a car. So I don't know anything about insurance, but I still have to develop software for this company. So I have to communicate and interface with these domain experts that know everything about insurance, so I can develop an application or a feature or anything that they want me to build, okay? But the problem is that I'm a software developer. I'm not a domain expert. So when I talk to someone that is not a software developer, I tend to use technical terms. Like someone tells me, oh, you're going to build this, this, and this. I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to use a linked list to do this. And the person's going to be like, what is it that you're talking about? Because they have their own jargon. They have their own terms. And me as a software developer, I might use these terms with my team, my teammates, my coworkers. But when I talk to a domain expert, he might not be a technical person. He might not know anything about software development. So ubiquitous language is pretty much this. It's a bridge between you, a developer, and the expert, the person that knows about the company's domain. Domain-driven design takes it a step further. So not only you use the ubiquitous language, which is a bridge, it's a language. So it has nouns, verbs, adverbs. So it takes a lot of time to build a ubiquitous language. We're gonna come to that in a bit. So not only use that ubiquitous language when you talk to the domain expert, you also use that ubiquitous language everywhere. Okay, that's the meaning of the word ubiquitous. So you use it for your application code, your task code, specs, documentation, whiteboard discussions, and also when you talk to your developers, right? Your teammates. Okay, so you don't use technical terms, you use the ubiquitous language. So let's say the domain expert tells me a requirement. So the domain expert tells me, okay, so nurses are supposed to administer flu vaccines to patients in standard doses. I might come with this implementation, right, in code, but this doesn't really express the domain, okay? It's very technical. This doesn't. So if you come back to the slide here, you have a noun, nurse, you have a verb, administer, flu vaccines, and you have another noun, patients. And here just saying patients, sexual type, the flu shot, the dose, the nurse, it doesn't even make sense to call patient nurse. This just doesn't make sense. This is a little better. So it's saying patient give flu shot, but that doesn't really express the domain. We're missing 2 things. First, the nurse. Okay, she's not here. Okay. Second thing is the flu shot has to be a standard dose. Okay, adult standard dose. So this is the best way to express domain in your code. You create a vaccine, standard adult flu dose, and you call the nurse, right? She's the one that's going to administer the flu vaccine, passing the patient and the vaccine. So this expresses the domain. Okay, so that's all domain-driven design is about. okay? You let what the domain experts tell you, the ubiquitous language, drive your code, not anything else. That's all it is, okay? Great. Domain, pretty easy term. What a domain is pretty much what a company is doing, okay? So I already said that. I work in an insurance company. Our domain is insurance. Amazon, their domain is e-commerce, right? But that's a very broad term when you say, okay, Amazon does e-commerce, right? But it's very broad, right? They have their subdomains. That's what we're gonna reach right now. They have these little blocks. So Amazon, for example, might have the shipping department. They might have the catalog where you show the products. They might have the finance where you process payments. And now these little things, they compose the domain, right? So e-commerce is very broad. You have these little cells inside the domain, which is e-commerce. So like, just like I said, finance department, the shipping department. And the thing is that there's some, this is actually important. Okay, well, there's some, okay. There are the 3 types of subdomains, right? The first one is the core subdomain. So this is the thing that will make or break your business. So for example, Amazon, the thing that might break Amazon is suddenly, let's say that Amazon, for some reason, all their shippings take a month to arrive. Okay, nobody's going to buy Amazon if it takes a month or 2 months to arrive, right? Or let's say that half of the products inside Amazon just disappears, right? One of the things that makes Amazon is the quantity of products that they have, right? So these are the type of things that if you take a block out, the whole thing crashes down like a Jenga game, right? These are the core subdomains, the things that make your company, your business. Then there's the supporting subdomains. These things are great, okay? They're good. Let's say, let me think of an example. Like if you go to Amazon, you can see recommendations. Every time you click on a product, you see like the list of recommendations, things that are like the product that you're seeing. That's good, but that's not the reason I would recommend Amazon to someone, right? That's just a cool feature, but that doesn't make the business. So these things, supporting subdomains are things you can take a block out, right? Carefully. It's not going to break the whole business, okay? Because that's not, wow. Generic subdomains are things that generic. So they're mostly outsourced. So as a team, you might have to use a database, but you're not going to write your own database. That makes no sense. So you don't want to allocate developers to build your own database because you already have tools to do it. Open source tools, Postgres, Mongo. So there's no reason to build your own database, right? A good example is LinkedIn. Okay, LinkedIn, their domain is social media, right? For career people. But they did build Kafka. I don't know if you guys know about Kafka. It's not their domain. Their domain is social media, but they did build their own generic subdomain, right? Because whatever they had at the time wasn't enough. So they had to build Kafka. But it's not their domain. The domain is social media, but they built Kafka. Right. Of course, you're not going to show your domain to someone or map it as a Jenga game. So you have these things called context maps. So here's the domain, this big line right here, that's the whole domain. On these dotted lines here, these are the subdomains. So here a core domain. This is the thing that is the most important thing for the business. This supporting subdomain A, B, supporting subdomain A, generic subdomain, and you also can see bounded context. We get to that. Okay, let's start with the first example. I'm a developer. Oh, by the way, this is an e-commerce system like Amazon. So I'm a developer. I'm going to talk to the expert, the domain expert. What is it that we're building? The domain expert, well, it's an e-commerce system. Our customers will be able to place orders for our products. Now, this is when the ubiquitous language comes. When I mentioned that ubiquitous language is literally a language, that's what I mean. So you have a noun, which is the bolded portion, which is the customers. We have the verb, which is place orders, right? We also have another noun, which is the products. Once that order is placed, and For the italicized ones, this is a status. So an order can be built, can be shipped, can be placed. We will attempt to build, that's another verb. The customer for the product. So the customer is also not a noun. The product is also not a noun. You also try to ship the product to the customer, okay? So ship is also another verb. And product, the noun again, the customer is a noun. So if you separate it that way, you build the language of the domain. That is ubiquitous language. So you have the nouns, the customer, product, order. You have the verbs, customer place orders, orders are billed, orders are shipped to the customers. And you also have the, these are not adverbs, I'm sorry. Orders can be placed, orders can be billed, orders can be shipped, okay? So if you try to make a context map, that's how it looked like, essentially. Now you add the product here and the customer. So we did not discuss about the title, description, and price and all these details. But honestly, in order to get to find out about the ubiquitous language, it takes a lot of time. Okay, so I cannot put that on the slide. It might take months, it might take weeks to build a language between you and the domain model, okay, and domain expert. But let's just suppose that the product has a title, a description, and a price. The customer has a first name, last name, and the number of orders that he completed or she completed. It might seem simple right now. Essentially, we have two models inside this domain, and it might seem okay, but later on, the domain experts are going to be telling you, okay, let's add another feature. So let's add a feature that adds the number of views to a product. So every time you click on a product, it's going to increase the number of views. That's fine. You just add it there. Then let's say that some products can be shippable to some locations, but some not. So we add that to the product. We add a new feature saying that the customer can have canceled orders, have a list of canceled orders. So you want to know which orders were canceled. But the problem is that as time goes on, you're going to have so many features that it's not going to fit in one model. Okay. So you have also the suggestions, recommendations, like the thing I said about Amazon, similar products, and you have feature 1, feature 2, feature 3, feature 4, and the model is going to be so big. You're going to have one big object. And that's problematic because every subdomain is using the same model. So that means the finance doesn't need to know about the views, right? The finance doesn't need to know about the places the product can be sent to. It doesn't even need to know about the title or description. It only needs to know about the price, right? But now we have this one model that is being used for every single subdomain. And this one object is being used across all the subdomains. And that's very problematic. I'm pretty sure everyone knows about the game, the baton game, where you have a baton and you run to the next person, and the next person takes the baton, runs to the next person, and all the runs are waiting for the person to arrive to you. If you think that the baton is the model, so let's say that the baton is the product, right? And the runners are each subdomain. The problematic thing here is that we have one model, one baton for every runner. Okay, so the problem here is that the subdomains cannot operate independently, right? Because they have to wait for the other runner, which is the other subdomain, to arrive to then do something, and then run to the next one, and then the subdomain would do something with it, and so that becomes problematic. Not only figuratively, not only that. If you think about the product as literally an object, right? And we need to update the object. So let's say that the finance needs to update the price of a product, right? In order to not suffer concurrency issues, we're gonna have to lock the object. And that means that while this is locked, while the finance is doing its operations, all the other subdomains are going to have to wait for the finance subdomain to finish its operations. Okay. So that is very bad, especially for a system like Amazon, that you have, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of requests every day, trying to update the same product. Someone's trying to buy a product, someone's making a review inside a product, someone's changing the title of a product, and they are trying to do the updates in this one big object. Okay, that might lead to concurrency issues. So what we're trying to do here is we have this very big baton, and we're trying to separate that and decompose it. Okay, so how do you decompose models? We talk to the domain expert, right? So I asked the question to the domain expert: if I change the title of description of a product, should that affect its price? Well, not really. That doesn't have to do the title and description of a product has nothing to do with the price of the product. So of course it's gonna answer, of course not, but that's good. Okay. The problem with finding bounded context is that it's pretty hard to find it. Okay, because the domain expert is going to tell you, oh, products can do this, products can do that, products can do this, but you're going to have to find some boundaries, because otherwise you're going to grow, you're going to make an object that grows exponentially, right? Every time you add a feature, you add something to this product and it's being used everywhere, okay? So, okay, so since we know that the title and description and the views do not affect the price. So if I change the title of a product, if I change the description of a product, if the views of a product goes up, it does not affect the price. We can separate the model, the product model that we have, into something that is smaller. And same thing here, we have the price, we separate that. The shippable locations, we separate that. Same thing for the customer. We have the first name, last name. If I ask the domain expert, if I change the first name and the last name of the customer, will that change the number of orders that the customer has completed it? No, of course not. So if I change that, okay, so I can separate that. I can have the first name, last name as one unit, and I can have the complete orders and cancel orders as a second unit. Now we have a better, instead of having one model for every single subdomain, we separate that into a context that's bounded context. Okay, these are the bounded contexts. So you have the financing context, we have the catalog context, and the shipping context. Now, they have the same name. So for example, here product, we have product here, but they don't mean the same thing. Okay, for the financing context, a product is just a price. Okay, something, or it can also be called liability, right? Something you want to bill a customer on. For the catalog context, a product is just a title or description. Okay, and now we can grow our features without having to modify this big model that we had. We can grow, okay, well, the shaping now has to know the weight and size of the product. Then we can just add these features right there. That's totally fine. That's not gonna affect a lot. Now we say the catalog, we also want to display the pictures of the product. So now we just add the feature with the pictures. So you might see that we have the same name, product. Is that a problem? Not really, okay? Because you gotta understand the meaning of the word context. Context is a setting in which a word or a statement appears that the term is meaning. So if I say, for example, tomato, okay? If I say the tomato, okay? Scientifically, it is a fruit, right? It has all the characteristics of a fruit, okay? It matches all the botanical definitions of a fruit. So scientifically, in the scientific context, it is a fruit. However, in 1893, we had the US Supreme Court say, no, it is not a fruit. It's a vegetable, okay? The reason why it's because it was back then they introduced a tax on all the vegetables. And so people started importing tomatoes because that wasn't part of the tax. But then the Supreme Court said, okay, you know what? Let's make it fruit so that we can start taxing it. Right, if you go back here, all right, integration. Right, so thing is, when we come back here, we have everything's separated. Okay, so that seems all good. However, that's not how it works in real life. When you place an order, you have to, when you place an order in Amazon, for example, the financing system is going to try to bill you. Okay, so it's going to try to make a transaction. And the shipping context is going to try to ship the product to you, okay, at the same time. So there has to be some sort of integration between these to make the whole order process work. So when an order is placed, we bill the customer, we also ship the product to the customer. So two things happen. So that's called a business process. So usually a consequence of an action. So you have when, once, thereafter. So when an order is placed, bill the customer, ship the product to the customer. So we could do that. We can have a place order command that goes to the catalog bounded context. And the bounded context is responsible for sending commands to the finance and the shipping. It says, okay, finance, bill the customer, shipping, ship the product. But the problem with that is that the catalog, which is supposed to be independent from the other bounded context, now has to know about two other bounded contexts. It has to know about the finance, it has to know about the shipping. So this is not a good idea because this has to specifically know about these two bounded contexts. Let's say that something went wrong with the finance bounded context. The system is down, the service is down. Now we have network error. The catalog bounded context is now has to handle the error, has to know how to handle error, and that is problematic. Okay. Another thing, so you have bounded context. If you try, okay, so if you share data between bounded context, so if you go scroll down here, right? So inside the financing context, a product is a surprise, right? Inside the shipping context, the product is it has shippable locations, it has a weight, it has a size. These three bounded contexts, they have to be autonomous, they have to be independent. So whatever is inside here cannot just go inside here because then you'd corrupt the bounded context. That's the whole reason. That's why the name is bounded context, right? So this is pretty much what happens. If you try, okay, well, I'll just talk to this bounded context. I'll get some data from this bounded context. The data comes here. That's fine. It seems fine. And then you do the same thing for the four. The four communicates with the one. You get some data from that one. But the problem with that is that will start to become normal, and you end up with a big mile mode. Okay, it becomes pretty much unfeasible. Right, but we still have to communicate with other systems. So the financing context still has to, let's say you have a legacy payment system because you need to process a payment. So what we do is we put this anti-corruption layer in the middle. So this anti-corruption layer is responsible for whatever data that we get from this legacy payment system. We are going to parse the data and make sure that the data that we parse is not corrupting the financing context. Okay. Same thing as when you go to someone else's house, you take off your shoes, or you go to the church, you dress up, you go to the office, you dress a specific way. That's the same thing. So before it even gets to the bounded context, it has to be parsed, it has to be purified so that it doesn't corrupt the bounded context. So a better way to do this, you could use events. So whenever the customer places an order, the catalog is going to say, okay, the order has been placed, but this is just an event. So the catalog is not telling the finance and the shipping context that the order has been placed. The catalog doesn't know anything about the finance and the shipping department. Okay, it's just to the system, it just doesn't exist. So once the order is placed, that event goes to the shipping, it goes to the finance, and if everything goes right, the order gets billed and the order gets shipped. Right, not everything can go right. Might happen. It might be the case that something happens. The driver just doesn't exist, or they had a strike or something, or weather related conditions, something went bad, and now we have to find a way, because if the order was billed, that means that the customer paid for the product. But now the shipping department is saying, okay, well, I cannot deliver the product. So I have to find a way to refund the customer. I have to find a way to refund the customer. I can, fortunately, I cannot get into that because that's a very complex topic. That's called sagas, or long-running processes. So essentially, you would have long-running process that would watch these services. And if something goes bad in this service, the long-running process would essentially tell we try to roll back. So if something goes bad here, you would refund the customer, right? And then you would say, okay, catalog, the product is back in stock, right? Because the order went bad. These look like microservices, but they are not really microservices. You could separate microservices as bounded context. That's totally fine. That's a totally fine way to separate microservices, but you don't necessarily need to use microservices in order to use bounded context. We had a talk, I think it was 2 months ago, actually, the last SocialCode. I forgot who the speaker was, but he was talking about modular monoliths, and that's okay. Hello. And that's essentially what it is. You can separate these bounded contexts if you use Java, for example, as packages or modules. There's a whole chapter on the domain-driven design book, the red book, that talks about that, how you can use modules to separate these bounded contexts. So you don't necessarily need to use separate these into different systems. Yeah, that was the talk. And any questions? Yep.
Thanks for that. Just wondering what would you say some of the trade-offs are for going with domain-driven design, and also so yeah, like talk about like the limitations.
Well, I'd say, yeah. Yeah, he asked what are the trade-offs of using domain-driven design. So your question. And the limitations. Well, I don't know about limitations, but I think it's not that it has trade-offs. It's about what is the complexity of your project. Right. If your project is basically a crude app where you just have a create, read, update, then there's no reason to use a domain, okay? Because there's no domain. It's just a crude app. But if your app is quite big, like insurance company or Amazon, then your domain is going to be quite big, right? And that's when domain-driven design really shines, because either way, we have to capture the domain in our code, right? Because you have features, you have to implement rules, right? If an order is placed, then do this. If the order goes bad, refund the customer. So domain-driven design is a way to put those rules together. Yeah. Good. Any more questions?
Question for Vitor. Who in the organization would you say has the ultimate ownership of the ubiquitous language definition?
It's a good question. You mean organization, you mean like between the domain expert and the software developer?
I'm hoping the person that typed that can clarify. Andy, could you clarify that for us?
Give it a second till it comes back. I would assume so based on what.
Right. Well, domain experts are not gods, so they don't know everything about domain. I think that software developer, they have the different perspective, right? Most of the times we're trying to build a modular system, especially architectures. You know, we're trying to build something modular. We're trying to build little cells. The domain expert might not think of the domain like that. Okay. So it's all about perspective. We have a different perspective on things. So what he was trying.
He said multiple people can use different meanings, so someone needs to marshal it.
multiple meanings. That's what bounded context is. So essentially, the ubiquitous language, instead of being applied, like we saw, the ubiquitous language was inside the domain and it was being used by all these subdomains. The problem is that a product means something else to someone else. So let's say you're building a clinic, right? A medic clinic, and a patient to the receptionist is someone you can bill, right? Someone you can ask questions about. What's your address? How you're going to pay your treatment? But for the doctor shouldn't even care about if you paid your treatment, unless you're in America. But the thing is that the doctor might just literally call patient, just someone with a name. They might need your medical history, so to see if you have allergies or all these things. But the medic, the nurse, doesn't care about your payment information, your address, your last name. So a patient to the nurse means something, right? So that's the context. A patient to the receptionist or the whoever handles the payment is someone that has address, credit card information, all these things. So we use the same word, patient, right? But depending on the context, depending on the glasses, they mean different things. So that's all bounded context is. So, yeah.
So we've got a follow-up question from Ram, who says, what's the solution for constant bugs while building a beaker's language?
Bugs.
Yeah, what's the solution for
Um,
constant bugs while building
Well,
a beaker's
I'd say that's a software development question, broadly. By bugs, I think he's asking about like business rules.
Right.
So if the domain expert is tells you you're gonna build this feature, right, and you don't know everything about the domain, right? The domain expert might know more than you, and that's most likely the case, especially if you job hop a lot, right? For example, I work in an insurance company. Tomorrow I might be working at Amazon, hopefully, and I don't know anything about their domain. The domain experts do. So if I have something that's not working in the domain, I should just ask them. That's all it is.
Okay, brilliant. Any more questions to the room before we wrap up?
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
guessing you need quite a lot of sort of inter-team communication. So like, is this coupled with something like a scale agile framework? So that multiple teams sort of plan together?
Yes.
as opposed to-
The examples were very simplistic. But to build the beaker's language, it might take months. Okay, it might take weeks, however long it takes. Depends on the complexity of the domain, right? So yes, definitely. Any more questions? Yes.
So I take a very pragmatic approach. Now, personally, I've seen some troubles in trying to scale them because you've got a relatively, like you said, simple example here, and it can start to get out of control very quickly. Particularly because you won't find all those bounded contexts within a monolith, and most of the time it'll be a bunch of lambdas or a bunch of resolve functions, or something out there to be a microservice. So what do you deem as the most sort of benefit you've seen from using TDD? Sorry, not TDD, DDD. Because TDD.
Right. I'll sum up your question.
It's hard to make a business case for someone and say, I want to split things in.
Right. That's a good question. One of the advantages is how you sell that to a domain expert.
The biggest business benefits.
Right. He asked what are the benefits, the business benefits to applying DDD to your project. Are you talking about DDD in general or the bounded context? Because you mentioned that in general. Depending on the complexity of your project, it is, I would say, to me, at least my personal opinion, the only way. Because just like I said, either way, we have to code something, right? And what we have to code is something that we don't know of, right? The domain experts do. They are the experts, right? That's why they're called domain experts. So that's why I believe that domain-driven design is the best way to especially in a domain that you don't know about. And yeah, that's essentially the best. That's the reason why. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Appreciate
it.
it. No, it doesn't want to work. You might have to do a next slide, please, kind of thing here. But Stephen McCartney on how to create a winning culture in remote and hybrid working. Lauren will trick you the thing back when it starts working again.
All right.
It was turned off. That helps.
There you go. There we go. Thank you very much. One things that I've learned tonight. The first one is bring your own clicker. Second one, yeah, the second one is make no jokes about sperm. And the third one is if you send Ross any slides, check them yourself. So I've already had a quick check. So I appreciate I'm keeping us all from the pub. So I will try and keep it brief. But when Ross said he wanted somebody to come talk, I thought I might have something that resonated with all of you. So I thought, why not? And I'll come and do that. So by way of hands, who works from home? Just home most of the time. By the same, who just works from the office? There are 5 days a week they're in the office, or a bit less. And then who is kind of like a hybrid, a bit in the middle, doing a bit. So maybe, yeah, okay, cool, thank you. So I suppose the first question is, who's right? Everyone's right. You're trying to ruin the whole thing now, aren't you? Right? But who's right? Is it the guys that are at home? Are you ruining the culture? Is it the guys that are in the office? Are you the trailblazers? So, what should we do? Now, I've got a team, and it's one of the challenges that I've seen. But it's also, if you look on social media, if you look in the news, there's always somebody giving us a lecture. Boris, whoever he was, he had comments about it. So I did a bit of research when I thought I'm going to talk about this. And the first kind of piece I come across was from The Guardian. And their point was, the evidence is in, working from home is a failed experiment. Failed. 2/3 of people just want more social contact. And it's not old school thinking. So you're told down. I found more. Working from home is bad for your health. So it's mental health, your fitness, it's bad for your health. We're all getting unhealthy because of working from home. So the guys that raised your hands are getting unhealthy. And also now we're having negative effects on companies and the company culture. So if you add that together of it's a failed experiment, it's bad for your health, it's bad for the company, and it's bad for the culture. It's kind of a bit of a message that maybe we're missing. Maybe we need to start listening. And it didn't just stop there. I thought, well, I'll do a bit of Googling. And there's quite a few results. Quite a few people are looking for this. And when you think about it, working from home is bad for the environment. Don't quite figure that. It's bad for your mental health. I think we get some of the challenges. Bad for you. Somehow it's bad for Reddit, but I don't understand what's going on there. So we're kind of getting the theme here that actually maybe there's something wrong. Maybe we're missing something. Maybe you guys that are working from home, maybe you're wrong. Maybe we've got to start listening because there's an overwhelming level of evidence. So I kind of thought, maybe that's it. Maybe I've come across the formula. Maybe I could be a trailblazer. So I've got a statement here. Return to the office 5 days a week, like it used to be. That's going to foster great culture. It's going to fix the health issues, you lazy sods eating sweets all day. And it's going to solve the negative work from home failed experiments. It's really simple as that. So there you go. Have I convinced you? We all bought in? No. Well, I'll get there. I'll prove it. So I decided overwhelming evidence now that I'm going to implement this. Briefed my team, loved it. Yeah. And weeks have gone by and it went that well. Right, I decided I was going to take some photos. Ross said he wanted to talk to somebody. 25 seconds later, I thought I can show them. So I took some pictures and I just wanted to show you. This is our office, Monday morning, bustling. Now, I just think this picture from the internet. That's not my office. I'm not that brave. But it's a serious point. And I'm going to pivot away from it and you'll understand why. Because I want to talk about culture today. And not the type of yogurt. Oh, sorry. And I might have to move past some slides just earlier on. But from a culture point of view, what do you guys think culture is? Anybody got any kind of thoughts about culture that you want to share? Social?
Yeah, just the norms, traditions, ways of the second group doing things.
So if you said we have a good culture, that's because we've got ways of doing stuff, you know, it's
and also like shared languages, shared understanding. So it goes beyond just behavior, that there are some implicit aspects to it.
Cool. All right. So I thought some examples, and I just wanted to run them by you as a bit of a checklist, because if I nail this, I can tick the culture box. So does having a beer fridge in the office mean we've got a great culture? If I get one of them, can I tick the box that I've got a good culture? Yeah, well, it's split. All right, well, you're easy guys then, you know. Maybe not. It's a good perk. We should all have a beer fridge in the office, but it's maybe not quite right for culture yet. All right, I'm going to up the ante. You can have your birthday off. Have I got a good culture? You're an hard crowd, right? So, all right, I'm going to up the ante again, and you can probably see there's going to be 6, but we'll pretend. If I give you some training courses, will you tell people we've got a good culture? No.
It could be an indication of a good culture.
No, it's a good thing. It's a good perk. It's something that would help, but it's not quite there. So I need to tick more boxes, but you don't. So if I put in some arcade machines, an Xbox, some beanbags, are you happy now? Kind of. Oh, beer and an Xbox. Fair enough.
Is it Tekken or Mortal Kombat?
Both.
No.
Fair enough. Right. Well, okay. All right. I'm going to up the ante one more time. I'm going to put in an on-site gym. Are you happy now? Have we got a good culture? You don't seem convinced here. So you'd be healthier. Now you can be much healthier. Right. That's it. I'm going to throw everything in. We'll do a 4-day week. Yeah. Is that a good culture?
Yes. Actually, where are the Kit Kats?
I did not think of that. If I throw in a Kit Kat, are we done? Well, I think these are indicators and these are perks. And when we're negotiating stuff, we should all get a beer fridge. I think we've kind of decided that. But what I've come across is that it isn't quite as simple as that. It isn't about the perks and it isn't about where you work, although again, that's important. I think it boils down to one thing. And that actual thing is something that we all want. And it's the foundation of what good culture is. And I think that is trust. If you are trusted to do what you need to do, then that you've got a good culture. And you think about it, I trust you. Here's the tasks. I want you to get on with it. I don't care where you work. I don't care what you do. I just want that done, and it's output driven. And devs and techies can fit in that kind of scope quite well. But one of the differences about developers and about how we work is that if we've got tickets and we've got allocated work, if we're at home, if we're working with a dog, if we're traveling and we're handling what we're doing and we're working with the team in the office and we're having a meeting and we're working together, the workplace doesn't matter, the location doesn't matter, the output matters, the trust of the team matter. And that's kind of what I think is the secret sauce. And maybe it's not the, we'll all go back to the office. And it's something that I think I'll share. I wanted to come and share with you guys is I think the foundation of a culture, a winning culture, the successful teams is trust. And one of the things we have to do as a group, because really we're trailblazers in this. When we see the news and we see the articles at the beginning, lots of people don't quite get how we work. And I'll frame it as in, think of a developer who is in a squad, who meets in a stand-up every morning with the team, who does huddles on Slack, who has bounce channels in Slack and different games things and different challenges and wordles going on in different channels. That's what we do. Who have tickets and allocated work and sprint boards, who work in a squad who's entirely empowered to meet when they think it's appropriate, to work the hours they need is appropriate because they're getting the tickets produced, who collaborate on PRs and output documents. That's what work is for a lot of the guys in the room. But the people who are challenging some of this work from home don't know that. They don't see the Slack channels, they don't see the PRs, they don't see the tickets, they don't see the huddles, they don't see the, the guys sat together trying to solve a technical problem. They don't see the call at 12 o'clock at night. Why is this service not working? Why? How are we trying to do those things? And that's what we have to get out there, and we have to explain, and we have to show how we do that. Because if we don't, very much where we're going to be is we used to communicate better. And imagine you have a role where you don't do the kind of stuff that we do, and you get a 1 weekly meeting and you get lots of emails. That's the kind of occupations out there that we can help, and that we can share some of the ways that we work, some of the tools, and some of the things that we've learned that's become commonplace. And really that was kind of the simplest thing I was trying to explain today to you guys, is that if you want to be in a place with great culture and you want to have a great culture, it is really simple. It's on you to create trust for your teams with the people that you work with. And if you don't trust them, find some people that you do, and you will have a culture that you're proud of and a place that you want to work. It's really simple as that. And thank you for your time today. For whatever you do, everybody needs to win. And Ross is going to come and explain how we go to the pub now. So.
Before I do explain about going to the pub, I want to open up to any questions in the room. I'm not going to come here and just run him off the stage. But no, thank you very much for that. Fantastic talk. I'm not going to lie, missed the first few minutes of it because I've just realised today's my mum's birthday and I had to go and ring her.
Oh, why don't you get her on FaceTime and we'll explain.
Before anyone asks, I did send.
I'll get you a picture to explain to her.
I did send a card and a present a week ago, and they have arrived, so I'm not totally in the doghouse. But I didn't ring her until about 5 minutes ago. But yeah, any questions from the room or the stream we'll throw out, and then I'll take it to the board.
Any questions?
How do you move away from focusing on hours and focusing more on like output? You're on a salaried role and contractors for 8 hours a day. It's kind of hard to shift away from the mindset with as an employee, and I guess
it is difficult. And, sorry.
Repeat the question.
You literally need to print that out next time. Yeah. How do we move away from kind of this houred kind of setup where we're trying to monitor there's been 6 hours of work? What does that mean, and do it? From the honest answer is it's not a simple thing, and it's not even a prescribed solution. It's trial and error. And the point is back to trusting the teams to explore that. They've got an outcome that they need to get done, and the teams need to know that. and they need to be empowered to run them, to run their sessions how they want. They need to be empowered to, do we do Kanban? Do we do, sprints? Where are we going to store the documentation? How are we going to do these things? It's only successful if the team are empowered to do that, and they've got that goal. Now, from an organization point of view, there's lots of organizations I'm sure we all work in that maybe are a bit more traditional, and then some that may be out there kind of trailblazing too. And it's on us to build mini cultures that we can replicate and build. And when you do that, and I've had success doing that in several businesses, once you do that, you start to be a trailblazer. People start to notice, why is the retention in this team higher? Why is people happier in this team? Why are we progressing? Why do we get more work done? It's because the team are empowered to work their way. But there is no simple way. It's the team have that challenge, and literally on a week by week basis, the retros are king. And if those retros happen like clockwork and people do something about it, in my experience, that's how you solve it. You can't prescribe it.
And I still can't get my head around the acceleration of trust is much quicker in the teams when you bring people together. Have you got any views on how to accelerate kind of trust and psychological safety in teams when you are remote?
Remote adds an extra dimension. I mean, you've got to try, in my experience, 5-10 times harder. And ironically, to kind of the whole presentation is sometimes you just got to get together and air your differences. And I'm not going to say for a moment that doesn't happen frequently, but what you've got to do is promote openness, that people can share their frustrations outward and feel safe. And that can only be done by demonstration of your actions and to lead. And that requires somebody in the team to be quite open to feedback. Because if you think about it, most of us get feedback, and most of us probably try and avoid giving feedback. But when you're in a culture where you can just say it as it is, you can solve those problems pretty quickly. But from my experience, it's took maybe 18 months in one place, maybe 2 years in another, maybe a year in another to get to that point. And a lot of it's been driven by me and a couple of key individuals just putting it out there and saying it as it is and protecting these people. So it's down to some leaders to give them that psychological safety. Yeah.
Have you had experience with bad actors?
So yeah, a question just for the guys is, have we had any experience with bad actors, people abusing the trust? Well, yes, is the truth of it. But if you always rely on centralized management to call that out, highlight it and do it, you've effectively got to police it. So therefore you're managing it. And the key to this is, if you have an empowered team, and we talked about psychological safety and where it is, they will all call them out. The peers call them out. Hey, wait a minute, this is not acceptable. This is not what we want. We want to be different than that. So yeah, I have come across that, but in reality, I would probably say that was in the end 1 or 2%, and the team dealt with it. The team were like, this is not acceptable. We're doing this. They won't listen. We want you. We want your assistants to do something about it. That's about empowering the team.
What's your biggest tip about building a unified culture with international teams that come from different cultures, different contract backgrounds?
But it's kind of interesting because I moved to Chicago at one point, and I ended up managing teams kind of North America, different parts of North America, Europe, Birmingham. I mean, they didn't understand the people from Birmingham. that was a real issue. The guys in Chicago wanted subtitles for them. The truth of it is, it's the little things that make the difference. So, and we talk about psychological safety. Some people have an MVP, Employee of the Month. We had a fuck up of the month award. Now, as much as you go, sometimes you've got to celebrate some of the failures. If you are driving and you're pushing and you're working hard together, you will make mistakes. You will fail. 20% of the stuff you do will be rubbish. And if you know that and agree that from the beginning, there is always something that you can do. That actually was the icebreaker, because up until that point, there was just these very different cultures, these very different standoffs, the very different time zones as well. Like, so, you know, we'll send you an email, you get up, we'll send you back. That's your problem, not our problem, you've done this thing. Once you start to build some of that rapport, the actual calls happen. And, you know, before everybody's using Zoom and such what, you know, it's like our breakthrough was putting the little desk phones in with the cameras, and they could actually see each other. The minute that the guys are seeing each other, seeing their reactions, and not just got like a polycom on the desk, that's kind of where it all went wrong. So it's the little things that builds the team, whether they're in, you know, whether in far-flung countries in all which way. And for us that have hybrid teams, we have third parties that we use. We've got developers, you know, over in Holland or in US or wherever that is. It's the little things that bring them together, and the little events that you come together, you know, even inviting them to a beer o'clock. And like, oh, you guys all have a beer o'clock on a Friday, like a, you know, 3 o'clock, get all of your teams. It's this kind of stuff of just being open, but for me, that made a difference. So, cool.
I have a question. Would you say that this is kind of more applicable for bigger companies and bigger teams? Because I'm a founder of a startup. I'm at the moment working with a production house of 25, and they work remotely. We start working during the pandemic, we haven't even seen them, some of them. But as I start building my team, when it is essential that actually those few first team members are there with me, helping me to build it and create that culture, because there's no culture at the moment. It's me at home, right? I'm there building it. So I'm talking startups versus established environments where you're working.
It's interesting because, I mean, I'm in an environment where I had to build a startup in a big business. So, and yeah, we were in the office together. I think my opinions changed because it's about the people. If you've got a couple of people that are bought into what you're trying to do, and they care as much as you do, and they have the vision that you do, and they lead the technologists, they lead the people implementing it, I don't actually think it matters where they are, because being bound by, I'm commuting, I'm in the office, sorry, I've gone for lunch, or that's not community, that's not the communication. Just because they're sat next to them doesn't mean they're going to learn. Just because they overheard, that's an excuse. Oh, you got to sit next to them so you can hear what they're saying, so you can learn it. That's an excuse, really, because if they spent the time proactively sharing and working together, there's no reason you couldn't get on a video call, you couldn't share your screen, you couldn't use code editors that they share and train junior people. 6 or 7 guys from our team here in today, and we've had very junior developers join our team, and we've onboarded them and taught them a very complex environment from scratch. Didn't need to see them in person, and they were way different in person when we actually met. But it is that, and it's the people, it's the key people that's going to drive your vision. But if you've got some people who don't really care about your vision, they're just there to pull a salary, then maybe. But if you've got some people that really get it, it doesn't matter where they are, in my opinion.
So I'm not talking about. In regards to culture, I find a really key factor is age, as much as people try to sort of move around it. And obviously, it being a protected characteristic with interviews and etc. But like a 23-year-old working in a startup is much different needs to the same person in that same company who's 45 is sort of the reality. How do you the question is, what do you find to bridge the gap between a multitude of age ranges, as there's more people coming into the workforce which have grown up with various technologies, and sort of how do you tackle the problem of, there's these two people within the same team who might want, or do you think age is a contributing factor to culture?
Just for everybody, do I think age is a contributing factor to culture? Just thinking back to some of the experience I've had is I've had what you're describing, very much entrenched. This is what we do. This is how we've done it. What are you bloody coming in showing us to do something different? We don't do that around here. At some point you'll be gone and we'll carry on doing what we're doing. I've had that. But then I've had the opposite of like, it's a breath of fresh air. You trust me? Oh my God, I've not had that. In all the 30 years, I haven't had that. I know all of this stuff, but nobody asks me the question. You know, that there's a number of people that are gold mines of information that nobody asks them, no one's asking them a question. And when you build the relationships with them, they're like, oh yeah, the body's buried there, and don't look in there, and oh yeah, Clive screwed that up 4 years ago, we don't touch it, we don't touch that. You know, there's a reason I tell everybody it's going to take 4 years when they ask me about that project, because I ain't touching it, I'll be retired in 3. Right? there's a lot of those conversations that happen, but what you'll find is that there's an entrenchment that you can't, that is difficult to get past. But when you're open and they know that's the long term, and when there is a peer group that are thriving in it, my experience is it does change, but there is a curve, there is a time, and there is an effort, and sometimes you don't always win that, and it does fit in entrenchment. But think of somebody new coming in to the team that are necessarily not been there 15, 20 years, but they are of the old ilk that come into the team. That works just as well. Like, this is so much better. I have a better work-life balance. You know, my wife says I'm so much happier when I get home. Those are the types of stuff I've experienced, and I don't think to promote any kind of concept of, oh, well, they're over 50, we're not adding them to our team, we're the trendy lot. Yeah, that doesn't exist. And actually what you find is there's a whole gold mine of stuff that is there if you just want to ask and you just want to show the respect. And respect is a key word. If you've been doing a job for 20 years and somebody come in who had 1 year's experience and told you were talking shy, you would be a bit grumpy with them, wouldn't you? So there's an element to that as well, even if they're wrong, in my opinion.
Next question. First of all, an admission. We're not techies, we're the hosts here, so we're the bad guys, we're the recruiters. I was kind of wincing because we do every single one that you call there.
They're all good things.
But yeah, and that has to be underpinned by a great culture. One of the things that I wrestle with running the business over the last couple of years, since we've gone hybrid, is how to replicate those moments around the water cooler, 2 minutes when you get to a meeting early, where you can say to somebody, how are you? And you don't quite seem okay, and you go, no, really, how are you? And it's like a welfare perspective. Have you got any practical tips on how to replicate that, or is there another way of driving the culture so you don't need to replicate it?
So just for the guys on the stream, just how do you help with the welfare and kind of connection with people with remote and hybrid? From my experience, there's a couple of things. So the first thing is, people in the office, I didn't meet with them every day, but people in the squad meet with each other every day. So there's a peer group that pretty much know each other very well. After 3, 4, 5 weeks, you know how they're feeling, and hopefully there's an ecosystem there. There's regular one-to-ones like every week with a team and a touch base. But the water cooler moments, I kind of played with the idea of how to do that. The first one is Slack channel, you know, a couple of Slack channels with some bounce, but ultimately, if you add up all the time that you spend around the water cooler, for the phrase, if you just take that time and maybe say on a Friday at 3 o'clock, we'll have 2 hours of talking shite with no agenda, grab a beer, we'll see together. And you do as a leader have to take some additional responsibility and awareness of people, because every single person in the team, you included, will go through a phase where you're not right. There's always something on our lives. And if the team care enough about each other, that's great. But as a leader, kind of the job is to sit and spot those things. But yeah, I think I could say maybe for my team, pretty much everybody's been through something in some way, and probably all of us, if we're honest and open, have been something too. And some of us are not so good at talking about it. Some of us want to tell everybody, and that's part of being leader, I think. But you do have to try, as I said, 5 times more and make an effort. And maybe in the office it was just easier to go, yeah, all right, you know what I mean? And actually you've got to be connected. And most of the moments we have, think of how many times you're in a Teams meeting or you're in a meeting with somebody and you're just like, you're on with someone else, you're doing something, be present and you spot those things. That's my experience anyway.
Thank you. Just basically, I guess on that last point, like personally, I like the give the flexibility to work at home or go in whenever you want. I choose to always go in. I choose to always work at home.
You locked it in now. You locked it in.
I like to feel the same connection as I would in the office anyway. Like I prefer it. I get to like, it's good because occasionally I can have a break, go water like grass or something. Do you know what I mean? And like, I feel like a really close connection to the people I talk to on video calls, and I'm in video calls a lot. But I do understand when people, like there's people in my team that like to go in, for example, they don't like being at home. They feel like they're missing out on social connection, and I might make them kind of feel sad. But then when they do go in, no one else is there. So they've got the same thing. So the question is basically, basically the question is it enough for a company to basically say, yeah, you've got the flexibility to work from home, you've got the flexibility to go in, when you've kind of not really given them that opportunity to go in if they want to? Do companies need to do more to support that? I think you kind of answered that there by saying, add socials in on like the Friday or whatever, but it seems like some companies that's kind of like up to a specific manager to do, like your line manager, for example, to organize that thing. But as a company as a whole, need to add something, not just offer that.
So yeah, just is it all right to kind of just offer the hybrid and then let people sort it out, but some people won't come to the office because nobody else is in the office and you've got this cascade. But this is kind of where it kind of comes back to my point of, say you've got a product, right? And we kind of all like to be product focused, but say you've got a product and you've got a squad that's dedicated to that product, and you've got all the disciplines that are required to execute on that they control how they meet, how they do their retros, how they do their stand-ups, how, do they do sprints, do they Kanban? They control that. But then they also control where's best to work for them because they're working together. Like, we want to go through this. We'll all come together as our squad, not just some randoms from different people. Because then that makes sense. They're going to be in a working group. Some of the guys today that are here, they work in a co-op space on a problem today, and then we came here. It made sense for them to come together and work together. So if you just come in when you feel like it, you just be the random in the office on Teams, won't you, instead, versus a group of people coming to solve a problem. Because when they're empowered to solve the problem, they just go wherever, and whether that's the office or a co-working space or John's house, drinking beers. But he's got a beer fridge. So you know what I mean? That's kind of the point. By empowering the team who are delivering something to work together, they'll do what's needed for them to execute, in my experience, as opposed to mandating it. Because how would you know? Last questions? Because we definitely have a pull.
What is your idea about mixed reality and working from home?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
What is your idea about mixed reality and working from home? Mixed reality.
Mixed reality.
Mixed reality.
It means with the headset you can have the.
Oh, VR.
Like VR.
Oh, right.
VR is.
Yeah, I do not get it at all. like I got a VR headset, and it's like.
In the mixed reality, we can have physical objects and virtual objects combined.
So at home, but in the office. So I'm sat in my chair and I'm walking around the office.
So like,
yeah,
they're just like a glass kind of ad where things start popping up.
I don't. If it was a game, I don't think it would sell very well. It's one of them. I mean, the concept of seeing people and their interactions and their gestures, I think, is missing. But I didn't see any execution. I can't see an idea of it working. But personally, but great question.
Right. Thank you very much, everyone. I know you're all wanting to get to the really important question where we got the pub. Toby, can you pop back in for a second, mate? Before we go, I just want to take the opportunity once again to thank the three of our speakers for giving up their time, coming out and doing this. This is the busiest event we've ever had as well. So thank you to all of you. I think you all deserve a round of applause. One last thing I want to throw out there. I want to throw a thank you out to the unsung hero of the night, Andy, for ordering 3 rounds of beer on Deliveroo just to make sure you're all through. We ordered the same amount of beer as last time before this event, and you somehow drank your way through it by 6:15. So, yeah, round of applause. Yeah, the three speakers had a third of it.